Whether you are thinking
Food and Beverage Magazine Live, bringing food and beverage to life with your hosts, James Beard Award winner Jennifer English and Food and Beverage Magazine publisher Michael Politz, featuring leaders in the hospitality, branded food and beverage, and CPG industries, many of whom are Jennifer and Michael's friends in the business, for an informal and informative conversation where friends in the business share the latest intel, ideas, and best practices. Live, juicy inside scoop from the tastemakers, newsmakers, bread bakers, drink shakers, spoon lickers, clam diggers, farms, foodies, and friends of the food and beverage magazine world. Here are your hosts, Jennifer English and Michael Politz.
Oh, what? Where are you? I don't see you. Are you here? Are you with us? Hi. Hi. How are you?
You know what? Something very unusual happened today. We're having wild storms in Arizona. Thunder, lightning.
Oh my God.
It's one of the least. What's that?
Are they sensual?
The storms?
Yeah.
Makes you want to crawl into bed with somebody you love.
It does? Tell me.
Because it's a stay in bed and cuddle with somebody you love kind of day.
Tell me about it. I want to hear more about it.
Well,
Let's stop this show. I've had enough.
Well, we have a great guest.
All right.
You're going to make our audience beg for it, aren't you?
I'm just asking if we could stop the show.
So you see what I'm doing? I'm polishing a glass. Not that many years ago, my good friend Dale DeGroff, the king of cocktails, came to my home. And he was on one of my shows, and we were going live, just like we are right now. And I had all the glassware polished, and I had all the ingredients ready to make drinks, and I had everything that I thought was, like, I was trying to impress the king.
Yes.
Because this week is Tales of the Cocktail Week, or what would have been Tales of the Cocktail Week. And so this is the time of year we would have been down in New Orleans celebrating and launching what has become a cocktail culture. We are now officially a cocktail culture. You can go anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world and get a great drink and not have to tell the bartender how to make something as simple as a Manhattan or a Negroni. And those are always great tests of what a great barman would have to offer.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So we're celebrating that and recreating, in a sense, that Tales of the Cocktail spirit. And right now, as I polish this glass, I'm reminded of the time Dale came to my house, and I was so proud. I had everything out, and he looked at my glass, and he took the towel. I had beautiful white linen, Irish linen towels, and he proceeded to hold the glass up, and he had to sparkle it up even more, because that's what perfectionists do. That's what great barmen do. They want everything to be perfect. There's nothing too small to go unnoticed. Every detail, every little nuance and essence, literally every drop that goes in your glass matters.
My God. What are you talking about, Jennifer? You lost me at hello.
Cocktails. We're talking about cocktails. Because we have one of the legendary barmen in the country.
Is he legendary because he's handsome? Why is he legendary? Because
he's handsome. He's legendary because one of his claims to fame is that he was one of the pioneers in the early days of the cocktail revolution that took place 20 years ago. He's legendary because his bar Elixir was one of the first and continues to be one of the best places to go anywhere in the world for a really beautiful, well-crafted cocktail. And he is also now the founder of what one might argue is the unicorn of the cocktail world. Fresh squeezed, ready to mix cocktail mixers known as Fresh Victor.
They've never sent me any.
What?
Yeah, it's weird. I personally think that you took my box.
Okay, well, I've got your juice right here, and I'm going to.
It's okay, because I'm just going to tell you why. I'm taking your box of Korean barbecue, frozen Korean barbecue next week.
Okay.
Well, unless you want it, because you know.
I love Korean barbecue. So I'm going to raise my glass and welcome one of the kings of our category, one of the legends in our world. one of the nights of a proverbial cocktail round table. You know, we all met at the Hotel Monteleone at Tales of the Cocktail.
But yesterday we had Hudson Valley Fog. Oh, excuse me, I had a little burpee issue. Yesterday we had Hudson Valley Fog Lava.
Yeah, no.
This guy's pissed.
Yes.
This guy is pissed. I don't know what to do. I didn't know what to say, but it's okay, right?
I'm going to tell you something.
Don't tell me anything. Tell the audience, because they're all here watching. We've got a number of viewers right now looking for this handsome guy, Joseph Ehrmann. Do you like how I say it with a little Latin accent?
I think that little accent is very very continental of you.
And I just want to say, of course, his video is blurry. His Wi-Fi is bad. He's the only guy that we have on regularly that has the worst. Now he's at work and he still has bad Wi-Fi.
Well, you know what, so Michael, so what we asked him to do, because we want everyone to say, oh, Fresh Victor, I've been using that for years, because this is going to be everywhere. This is going to be everywhere. Everyone is going to know it. Everyone is going to use it. It's going to revolutionize how we drink at home. I'm making a bold proclamation about this. But because we're going to be drinking more at home, we miss going to our favorite public houses, pubs, taverns, saloons. From one of the
I'm trying to feel like Michael doesn't like to drink.
From one of the great saloons in the country, Elixir, we welcome our
Wait a minute. From the greatest saloon in the country. Let me rephrase that, H, okay?
It's true. It's true. I wanted H to join us from his bar called Elixir because I really felt like we've all missed seeing the inside of that joint. We missed our favorite places. Thank you for coming, and thank you for bringing us into Elixir. How long have you been closed for the COVID?
4 months.
How did
Closed on March 15th.
How did you feel to be behind your stick again?
It feels good, yeah. I mean, and welcome. It's nice to host people, even virtually. I've been doing some corporate team building cocktail classes via Zoom and stuff from here, but yeah, it's nice to come into the bar and set up a bar station and get ready to make some drinks. It's, you know.
I love that. So tell everybody the history of Elixir and how you came to be one of the great barmen in the country.
Well, the bar itself is the second oldest saloon location in San Francisco. There's been nothing but a saloon on this corner since 1858. And if you think of the history of San Francisco really booming in 1848, this neighborhood, the Mission District, there was maybe 500 people out here prior to 1848. And by 1858, there were hundreds of thousands of people in the area. So,
From the gold rush.
yeah. And I mean, by 1850, the gold rush was even over, but San Francisco was built. San Francisco was established, and it was established as a drinking town. So we were one of many saloons, but we're only a block from the Mission Dolores Church, which is where California was founded as the missionaries came up. And so we were this literally being a block from the church means we were the center of town back then. And I'm the 12th proprietor in 161 years.
That's so cool.
I bought it in 2003 and cleaned it up. It was the proverbial, hole. It was a stinky, rotten dive bar, but I saw its beautiful Victorian bones, and I'm the first bar owner that I know of to clean it up and tell its story as part of what it is, rather than putting my own concept on it. Like from 65 to 85, it was a merchant marine dive bar that had a mini pool table in it. From 85 to 89, it was a gay Latino bar called La Bandita.
Is this the 1880s or the 1980s?
1880s. We were La Bantina. We had the greatest time in La Bantina. Jennifer, were you not there?
My younger self was there.
Enough before I get too politically incorrect.
So it's a historic spot, and as you can see, it's a beautiful hand-carved mahogany back bar, Victorian, And I just basically, I didn't renovate it. I restored it. I cleaned up the wood and fixed the broken stuff, and you know, I made the walls and the decor kind of museum-ish to pay homage to history of San Francisco saloons in general, the neighborhood. There's all kinds. Every piece on the wall in here has a little bit of story. It's a 1,000 square foot room. I always say I can give an hour tour of it.
Hey, H, what is a saloon, and how is a saloon different from a pub or a cocktail bar?
Well, you know, the bars of the colonial days were taverns, and they were generally serving fermented alcohol, beer, wine, mead, and spirits. Of course, not cocktails. And if it was a fancy place, you might have found punch. And as westward expansion happened, the first thing to develop in any new location, say 10 people show up and there's a reason to stay there and create a settlement, the first things they need are food, drink, and housing. So people, the first thing they would want really was a drink. And so they'd start tent saloons and have barrel and plank bars where if they had whiskey with them in a barrel, and they put a plank between the two to create a bar and put a tent over it. And then people would pay to sleep on the floor or sleep on the bar. They had different rates for what you slept behind the bar, in front of the bar, on top of the bar. But they would sleep in the bar, and then a hotel would arise and be built around it. So most of the early saloons were part of that whole F&B mixture of hospitality, and they were expanding architecturally in the pre-Victorian and Victorian time with that same architecture, bringing that design with them. And so saloons evolved as centerpieces of the neighborhood and places to meet, as taverns were on the East Coast, and any kind of bar before that. They were always gathering places, and that's really what we miss. So the term saloon is what arose out of the West, of what would have been called the tavern.
Now, you talk about the bar that you have there. There were companies that were known for producing things like pool tables and bars, companies like Wurlitzer and Brunswick. Do you know if that particular bar that you've got there was a custom, bespoke, carved item, or is it like those big Wurlitzer and Brunswick ones we see from time to time? I completely refinished this bar myself in 2003 by hand, cool. And I didn't find any markings on it at all from anywhere. I've bought online through eBay and other sources old catalogs for all of that equipment, and I've never seen this bar in any. I've never seen this bar in photos. It does have, in the middle of the bar, beneath the POS, there's a little brass plaque that's right on the edge of the bar, and it says San Francisco Store and Office Fixture Company, with a street address that is across the street and up the block. So when I did the research on that store, and that was a store that sold all of those things to the hotels and restaurants, and when I researched that is a pre-1906 address, and it burned down in 06 along with the original bar here, and it relocated to another part of town when it reopened. And so this bar came from that store across the street prior to the Great Earthquake, but was brought in by the same owner. The longest running proprietor here was Patrick J. McGinnis, and he had it from 1893 to 1933. Wow. So after 13 years of ownership, his saloon burned down, and he's the one that had this building designed and rebuilt. And so it's also one of the only saloons in San Francisco to be rebuilt in the same place by the same owner after the 06 quake and fire. Wow.
So when you look at, I have the original, those 1907 architectural plans on the wall in prints. And when you look at the original design from 1907, the sketch for the back bar is different than this. So I think he found it somewhere beyond the burn zone and brought it in. And it was, from the store across the street, but survived the fire, because there are no burn marks on it anywhere. Wow. So it's not in the fire anywhere.
So for our first sip in a public house, our first saloon sip in the pandemic, in COVID. There is no more celebratory and no more meaningful place than Elixir, a building which itself survived and was reborn as like the ashes and the phoenix. I think this is symbolically so inspiring for everybody that, you know, no matter, even if the big one comes, we're all going to rebuild. We're going to rebuild maybe differently, but we'll build on the same spot and do the same thing because this is how we are and this is who we are in our industry. For me,
Jennifer, that's a really positive thought. I I'd like you to worry. Let all the viewers worry. The big one's coming.
I
keep talking about all that too. Like, you know, as the 12th proprietor in 161 years, I look at what the previous owners survived, and McGinnis in particular, the 40 years that he was the owner here, he survived. His business survived the 1906 quake and fire, which he rebuilt. He went through World War II, through World War I, Prohibition, and he talk about a pivot. And you know, in 1919 they shut his bar down, and he reopened it as a soda fountain and ran it as a soda fountain for 13 years. And then when Prohibition was over, he finally sold it.
One of the things I love about what you do there, and the bottles behind you, the glassware behind you, the way it's sparkling. I mean, I really can feel being with you. The way that you position yourself, the way the camera's looking at you, I feel like I'm sitting at your bar. I can't thank you enough. Let's talk a little bit about the kinds of drinks you make at Elixir, because you do more than pull up a mighty pint. You really are one of the great mixologists in the country. And when we got started almost 20 years ago with Tales of the Cocktail, and we were just all a bunch of cocktail nerds, we really dreamed that everyone would love it as much as we do. And you have a really important role in helping that happen. Talk a little bit about how your style exists and how you've had a hand in getting us here in the cocktail culture.
Well, I started as a cook on the Jersey Shore when I was 16, and I cooked for a good 5 years before, you know, somewhere in there I started waiting tables too. But you know, I didn't bartend until I was 21, and so I learned a lot. The first chef that I cooked for that taught me to cook. I mean, my grandmother really taught me to cook. She was an amazing Hungarian German cook, and I cooked with her as a kid. But the first chef that I cooked with was Duke Cicero, who had prior to that. I mean, I was 16. He had to be 20, 21, maybe a little older. But he had just come out of CIA. And his roommate in CIA, his roommate's family owned this restaurant on the Jersey Shore, and my parents had just bought this house on the same street as this restaurant. So I just walked up the street to this new restaurant and said, "I'd like to work." And so I got hired as a busboy. But when I showed up for work, the front of house manager wasn't there, and Duke was in the kitchen. He said, "You want to learn how to cook?" I was like, "Sure." So Duke taught me how to cook, and for those that don't know him, he went on. He had prior to that he had worked for Paul Prudhomme. And then when he went back to New Orleans, he opened his Cafe Giovanni in a quarter and ran that for 20-something years. He only sold it a few years ago. And actually, going back to those early days of Tales of the Cocktail, I did my first spirited dinner at Cafe Giovanni with Francesco Lafranconi and Alan Katz. And so after 20 years, I got to work with Duke again. That was pretty cool. So my whole style of cocktails was driven out of that culinary approach. You know, I was muddling stuff in a glass before a lot of people were, and using fresh produce and using culinary techniques to make syrups and to get flavor out of food that I was putting into the drink. And that's what drove everything here. And you know, in those early days, everybody was calling it California style because there were a handful of us here in San Francisco doing it. Whereas in New York, everything was more classic and spirit forward, stirred.
Spirit forward, yeah.
And that evolved. Eventually the New York scene came around and started playing with more produce, and we started doing more spirit stuff, and that kind of went away after a few years. But that's what I continued to do, going to the farmer's market. And of course, when I was working for Square One, traveling the country, teaching bartenders how to squeeze limes and make simple syrup, and talking about organics and produce and farmers markets and all that. So that has been the driving focus of our program for years and years. I mean, at one point I was doing 6 to 8 menus a year.
Wow.
And I only stopped that maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
We teased your appearance with us last week when our friend Tony Abiganin was on with us. And he was talking about his cable car drink as a drink that he's pretty well known for. What drink do you think most people will know you for? What drink in your repertoire that you've created are you the most proud of and sharing?
It's probably the celery cup. I'd say the celery cup #1, or the Kentucky Pilgrim. The celery cup was one that I created for Square One Cucumber when I launched that. And as I said, I was traveling the country, and that was the drink I kind of took with me everywhere. And then in 2009, I won the Rising Star Award of Cheers, the Cheers conference, and I batched that for like 500 people, which is, it's muddled cucumber, cilantro, celery, and I was using food processors and chinois, and it was crazy to make that drink for 500 people. But to this day, it's one I still make all the time, and I teach it in my classes, and it's been on the menu for years.
So when somebody walks into Elixir, what's the spirit that you try and convey to them? What's your philosophy of hospitality and conviviality?
Well, we're as a corner bar and a neighborhood bar, and this is all kind of in my business plan too. People always say, you can't be everything to everyone, but my concept of a neighborhood bar and my concept of business that is open 7 days a week, 365, is you have to be more than something to one person. You have to provide a lot of different stuff to a lot of different people in order to keep people coming through the door 7 days a week, 365. And so, there's a different crowd that comes in between. We open at 3. There's a different crowd that comes between 3 and 5 before happy hour. Another one that comes at happy hour. Another one comes different. The Monday crowd is different than the Tuesday crowd. So we have my whole philosophy has always been offer something for everybody and welcome everybody, and that's basically hospitality. I think when that issue became a dividing point in cocktail bars when cocktails took off, the scene took off, because a lot of bars were saying, we do this. And then the argument was, well, you don't go to Burger King and get mad that they don't have lobster, because that's not what they do. And that's true. So if you have a cocktail bar, you have a bar that's very focused. It's, whether it's tiki or speakeasy or whatever, it's a concept. Then be the best at what you're doing and what you're focusing on, and offer that. But my concept here has always been arms wide open, everybody's welcome, and we've got something for everybody to make everyone happy. So it's more of that generalist approach.
But what it is your signature style of entertaining. And for people in our industry, there are so many places that have closed. So many people in our trade and our industry have lost their job. Their home has become their corner bar. Whether they can make things for their friends and sit outside, or they're not able to. Everyone is entertaining at home in a different way than we've ever done before. And in some ways, this is actually one of the silver lining topics we talk about every show. We look for a silver lining in this very dark, cloudy moment of COVID. And one of the silver linings is I think we're having another golden age of cocktails at home.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thing, because I one line of business I have is my Elixir to Go business is focused on these corporate team building cocktail classes and corporate, I call it cocktail edutainment, doing corporate events based around cocktails, but providing a lot of knowledge and experience where that knowledge is fun. And in the absence of those live events where we're teaching, you get the marketing department, right? You got 15 people from the marketing department. They all have different varying interest levels and experience levels with cocktails, but you're telling them, this is a citrus press and this is how you use it. And you can buy these at Bed Bath & Beyond. They cost this much, find it on Amazon. You're telling them how they can get stuff for their home bar, how to shop for it, how to stock it. I give them handouts or email them a PDF after. But now in this virtual environment, it's a completely different scene because I'm doing these Zoom cocktail classes where I can see everybody in their homes, in their kitchen, just like you now. And it's a great experience.
I can hold the class and say, would you rather me make it in this or this? And you get to, you see the stem and you see the coupe and you say, they're both crystal and they're both a stem, but this one has a much more light bulb shape. And this is really more Marie Antoinette shape. Talk a little bit, we're gonna make some drinks. And the reason we can make some drinks is because of Fresh Victor. Anybody can squeeze a lime, but this isn't merely fresh squeezed lime juice. First of all, I don't know anybody that's doing just fresh squeezed lime juice that's commercially available and prepared so that when you make your drink, you really have the greatest cocktail bar back in the refrigerated case. It's like having a young person squeezing 50 limes for you. I love that I could just open one of these up, twist it, shake it, and we're good to go. But talk a little bit about how important in any cocktail program at home that first drop of fresh squeezed juice is.
It's, the reason you won't see a lot of that, the citrus juices that are out there that you can buy in a store are all shelf stable, and they're just not good. They're not like fresh. There's nothing like fresh. It doesn't take the most complex or educated palate to discern the difference. If you just make yourself a drink with one of those shelf stable mixes, and then you make it with fresh, the difference is glaringly obvious, and it's a distinction of brightness and complexity of flavor. I often compare it to the importance of good vermouth. Like if you're using that bottle of vermouth that's been in your cabinet for a year, and then you taste that next to a freshly cracked bottle of vermouth, it's all the difference in the world, because vermouth will go bad. And
we should say, if you do have a bottle of vermouth and there's anything in it, you just cracked it open, at least keep it in the fridge.
Yeah, and drink it. People don't think about that. It's delicious. Pour it over ice and drink it.
Tell us about the line that you've created. I wanted to call these fresh squeezed juices. That's how I was thinking about it. But you have taught me that it's way more than that. This is not just 16 ounces of juice. This is actually 16 cocktails of product. Talk a little bit about what Fresh Victor is.
Yeah, it is. It's a line of cocktail mixers. It's not a line of juices. They're juice-based mixers. So all of our products are nothing but fresh juice, fresh fruit or produce purees, and organic cane sugar or organic agave nectar as the sweetener, and great water. And we flash pasteurize it, but we blend everything to create a mix that is dense in flavor and rich and fresh, and can stay in the refrigerator for a while. The flash pasteurization is what gives it the shelf life in the refrigerator, but it is fresh. It has to stay refrigerated, which means all of our distribution nationally has to be in refrigerated trucks, and it can't go on a shelf-stable shelf out in the middle of a supermarket. And that's where one of our challenges is as a product, getting it out into the market. It's a difficult operation to get it from fresh squeeze to your glass, but that's kind of the part of the uniqueness of our offering is that we've gotten it out there. And so each of these products, we've got 7 different flavors, is a different mix of fruits that will, in some cases, have like a little spice or a little herb, and then always some perfect sweet and sour balance. And between all of them, you can make an incredibly wide variety of cocktails. And so we'll make a couple of different ones today, but having them prepared and in your fridge just means, you know, as we'll see in the first drink we're going to make here, it's just 2 moves. You've got a quick, fresh, beautiful drink, and you're not going out and you don't have to buy all that fresh produce and cut it and squeeze it and have the inconsistency. Why does this taste different than the last one I made? Because, you know, obviously it's fun to learn all of that, but one of the things I've learned over the years of teaching these classes is that everybody's like, oh yeah, that's great. I love learning it. That was a lot of fun, but I wish it could be easier.
Right.
And we've made it easier.
Well, and I'm going to tell you, I bought a bag of limes and I brought them back. And, you know, the thing about fresh produce is, while they may have come from the same region, they may not have even come from the same tree just because they end in the same bin at the grocery store. And so one of the things, you might get some variability because they are an all-natural ingredient. And the juice may taste differently one to the other. And the zest, the pith, all of it's going to have its own characteristics. Tasting becomes a very important part of what you do. Having it produced so that all that is evened out through the balancing, to me, is part of the genius of this product.
Yeah, and speaking as an operator, as an owner, you know, we've pivoted so that we now have this in 16 ounces for consumers, but you know, we've been for the last several years, we've been out there promoting this, the 64-ounce product that comes in a 2-pack gallon case to bars and restaurants and hotels and events around the country. And it takes all this variability of product quality, like you said there, as well as, and which is, you know, throughout the year, not just day to day, and then the product, what your end product is going to be. We give you that consistency across the board. So whether you get a drink in your Tucson store or in your Portland, Maine store, it's going to taste the same, and you're not going to lose any variability also for human error in the way that person's creating that drink. And so that's why our bar and restaurant customers love our stuff, is we save them a lot of money and we give them a lot of benefit.
The value equation is sensational because this is an irresistible product. At the end of the day, this is so really delicious. It's irresistible.
I'm super proud of it, and you know, I'm excited for where we're going with it.
I wanted to show you, just so you could get a sense. I wanted to show you because I know it was kind of unfair of me to hold these cups up for you to see, and you couldn't really see them. So I wanted to just show you what we had to work with, and then I've got a couple of other regular stems too. And then I've got a whole bunch of fresh ingredients. And then we're going to make something with watermelon, right?
Yep.
Okay, let's get the watermelon out.
I'll start with the first drink will be the way I look at this and introduce it to people is like, first of all, there are basically, you know, every time you add an ingredient to a recipe, the recipe gets a little more complex. It gets complex in the execution of making it, and it gets more complex in the taste. So all of our products are made to be perfectly balanced so that all you have to do and mix at a 2-to-1 ratio. So if you take 3 ounces of our Mexican lime and agave and you mix it with 1.5 ounces of good tequila and shake it, you've got a fresh margarita that's perfect every time. It's super simple. And so all of these mix with one other ingredient very simply to make a wide variety of drinks. We've got jalapeno and lime, cactus pear and pomegranate, Mexican lime and agave, pineapple and ginger root, fresh lemon sour, 3 citrus mint, and cucumber and lime. The cucumber and lime is not in 16 ounce yet. So between all of those, you can mix them with just about any kind of spirit and have a great cocktail like that. If you mix it,
we want to highlight, if I could put that big yellow pen under that one portion, that it's based on the ratio. And it's that 2-to-1 ratio. Tell everybody about that one more time, because we're going to talk ratios all through cocktail. Because what's going to empower you to make the best drinks of your life is having some really fundamental, essential skills that are these ratio skills when you're working with a product like this.
Yeah, the 2-to-1, is just the core where we targeted this across all of them, so that they all have that same level of simplicity, and they're going to need a little dilution. Now they're all completely drinkable straight, and my daughter loves them and is always asking for them, but they are meant to be diluted. So if you're putting 3 ounces, 3 ounces of our Mexican lime and agave and 1.5 ounces of tequila, you've got 4.5 ounces of pre-diluted, pre-chilled drinks. I mean, your drink, your Fresh Victors are going to be cold, but that's about the same volume level of liquid that you're going to want in making any cocktail. Any cocktail I'm making behind the bar here that I'm putting into a standard, we have these 10.5 ounce glasses that this is our bucket, and this is our highball or chimney, or they're 10.5 ounce glasses. So all of my recipes here at the restaurant are built around going into the shaker at somewhere between 3 and 5 ounces, so that when you shake it and it comes out and goes over ice, it's a perfect pour every time. And those are pretty standard size glasses that anybody's going to have in their home. So if you keep that in mind, that 3 to 5 ounces of pre-chilled, pre-diluted mixture, that's where you're going to be on almost just about any recipe. And that's why this is perfect and easy.
What do you want to make?
Well, we're going to make a smoky, spicy margarita.
Oh, I love that.
Again, these are, we do have a lime sour and a lemon sour, the two core sours that you're going to need for a wide variety of drinks. All of our other mixers have a little more complexity to them. So the jalapeno lime it's got a beautiful mixture of that bright, crisp lime flavor, but just the right amount of heat. Heat can be a very divisive thing, and going back 10 to 15 years, and when people were starting to put some jalapeno or some habanero, people were trying to satisfy that need for heat, there were some horrible drinks going on out there, and there still are, because people don't understand the variability of the peppers they're using and how much, and they can't control it, whether they're muddling the pepper. You need to make like a consistent recipe of a syrup or a tincture or something that you're going to have for that consistency. And again, this provides that great consistency. So I'm going to start with 3 ounces of my Fresh Victor, and I'm using my modern mixologist toolkit here that I got from our friend Tony.
You did an awesome cocktail class yesterday. There was the muddling and swizzling we did together last week.
Yeah, it was awesome. So I'm going to use my 1.5 ounce side of my jigger 2 times to give me 3 ounces. And then I'm going to use mezcal, and I've got Del Maguey Vita here today. I'm going to use a mezcal that's nicely balanced. I don't want something overly complex or expensive. This is just a great espadín cocktail mezcal that's going to give me that smoke and that beautiful fruity agave flavor. I'm going to put 1.5 ounces of that, and you could put 1.5 ounces to 2 ounces in there, depending on how much alcohol you want, which then changes that ratio. You go 2 ounces, it changes that ratio to a 3 to 4 ratio, where the part is 1/2 ounce. So, excuse me, is an ounce. Wait, I got it mixed up there. Yeah. So if you're going to change the amount of alcohol but keep the mixer the same, that changes the ratio a bit. And then the third ratio that I always talk about is the 1-to-1, which is more classic, which I'll do with our Mexican lime and agave and rum to make a daiquiri, because you really want that rum to shine. I would do like 2 ounces of mix and 2 ounces of rum, and I'd get a really good daiquiri out of the same mix that I'm making my margarita and all these other drinks with. So I'm going to ice this up, and I'm going to ice up my glass. So I'm pouring over fresh ice in my glass. When I shake this, I'm going to get that nice chill and dilution. Give it a good hard shake. Now you could build this as well and just let it sit and dilute, and it'll chill and dilute. And quite frankly, I'll do that a lot at home. I just, again, even I get lazy. If I don't even want to get my shaker out, I'll just pull out a glass, throw some ice in, dump some tequila or some mezcal in there, top it off with some fresh Victor, and go back to the TV or the couch or wherever I'm going. But when you shake it, you get that it's perfectly chilled and diluted and ready to go. And again, look at that. Perfect amount of liquid to the last drop. I'm not overflowing. Fits perfectly in my glass with full of ice. I see you're doing yours up.
Yep.
Normally, I would garnish this with some sliced radishes. When you go to your favorite taqueria and you get some hot food, they've always got radishes there to cut the heat. And so I like using radishes as a garnish when I'm making drinks with the jalapeno mix. But I forgot to bring my jalapeno, so I'm going ungarnished.
Jennifer, can you toss them over a jalapeno?
Yeah.
Can I work?
Is this it, the spicy margarita, H?
Yep, that's it right there.
I thought we were doing a watermelon drink. This is amazing. Spicy margarita. Look, is that a radish? What is that?
It is a radish.
So it's radish. The radish cuts the heat.
Cuts the heat. You hear that, Jennifer? Jennifer, where'd you go?
Getting my radish.
Again, going back to the device of the heat.
My radish.
Another cool thing about this product, as I was saying, heat can be a divisive thing. Heat and smoke in drinks are always divisive, right? People either love it or hate it, or they have some kind of precise mix in the middle that they like. If this product is too hot for you on its own, you just cut it with some of our Mexican lime and agave, and you bring that heat down. And if you like a little bit of heat and you want to get it in some other flavors, mix it with some of our other stuff. The jalapeno lime mix is great with every other product to give you that little kick of heat.
I want to tell you a couple of things about this jalapeno lime. I think that jalapeno is misunderstood flavor-wise because the majority of places most of us see it from coast to coast is in the preparation of a cheese-filled, deep-fried, appetizer-style kind of a thing. Living in the Southwest, living in California, you get an abundance of all the chilies. I have to say, the jalapeno lime smells like what jalapenos are supposed to smell like, but it also has that sort of wonderful roasted chili quality to it. Because when you roast chilies, you really coax this essence out of them. And I get that in this product.
It's funny that our original product was poblano, not jalapeno. And it had that much more of that smoky character. We actually switched it up to jalapeno because we found that a lot of people just didn't know what a poblano pepper was.
I don't even know. Jennifer was so excited about doing this show. I caught her on camera. No, she doesn't know I caught her, but I caught her doing an excitement dance for the show today. Jennifer, is that amazing?
H, what you probably heard from the boys at school is, yes, I do wear those tighty whitey granny panties, and that is how I dance in them.
Was that tighty whitey granny panties? Let me see.
Tighty whitey granny panty.
I think that's an apron, honey.
Oh no, that's a tighty whitey granny panty for the.
No, it's an apron over. You're just trying to make H look bad for sending me that.
The tracksuit pants that fall down below the bulge. That's what happens when you wear the granny panties.
Oh God.
That's how you know Michael has an amazingly beautiful wife, because he hasn't had to deal with any of this.
What about this? Do you know this guy, Jennifer?
That's a good picture. I love that.
I remember that hair.
That is a handsome picture. Look at that hair. Handsome. Okay.
All right.
It was quite dark back then.
So H, one of the things I really wanted to focus on today was giving people, you remember when you were in school and you got a brand new box of crayons, and they all had a sharp point, and you got creative. What am I going to do with these beautiful crayons? This is, to me, like getting a brand new box of crayons. I'm completely inspired. And what you can come up with is a signature drink for your own house in your own style.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's all the super simple things, but then, and if you're doing that 2-to-1 mix of 3 ounces to 1.5 ounces, or, 4 to 2 or whatever you're gonna do, you're using up quite a bit of product. But as we'll see in the third drink we're gonna do, we're only gonna use an ounce. Like you can use little bits of it and incorporate it into bigger recipes. And we have one of the really cool things what we found is we get our product into bars and restaurants, and the bar managers going crazy about it, and the customers love it, and the chef finds out about it. Next thing you know, we're in the ceviche, or we found our way in the pantry, and the pantry chefs using our stuff. And so the kitchen, they're leveraging it across the kitchen for all kinds of purposes. It's great for cooking.
The jalapeno lime is so good for ceviche.
Is it perfect, right?
And gazpacho.
Yeah, that's a good call. I haven't even tried it with gazpacho yet. I make a great sangria with the cactus pear pomegranate.
I have to tell you,
that would be a fun recipe. You know what? I would like to use like a Moscato in that.
Yeah.
Totally.
Don't give my secrets away, but sometimes a white Moscato in the sangria kicks it up a notch.
All right. I love this product. I love the cactus pear and pomegranate. It gives you all of that really puckery, tart, tangy, quenchy kinds of pucker in the back of your cheeks. That to me is the really well balanced, that the finish has that sweet sour quench in that. I mean, I don't even know what to call that experience, but it's so good. It's like happy sour.
Yeah, this is the one that you always say, like, you love all your children the same, but this is pretty much my favorite of our products because it is so versatile. They're all, you can mix anything with all of these, but obviously some lean a little bit better with unaged spirits and others better with aged spirits. This one works with everything. And that balance, a lot of people don't know what cactus pear is, or otherwise known as prickly pear, the fruit of the cactus. That flavor is very unique and different. I would say a majority of the country is not too familiar with. Of course, in Arizona you are, and a lot of people are. So it's definitely a hot flavor.
We got a picture of the beautiful. That's the actual fruit, and this is after it's been processed. That the tiny prickly thorns on the outside are removed, and that beautiful magenta color is completely what it looks like. And if you were just doing a concentrated prickly pear, you would end up with a lemonade or a drink that had that like hyper pink color to it. You've actually made that sort of modified a bit, and I like how you've I don't want to say toned it down, but you've toned it down.
Yeah, and adding the pomegranate to it is a perfect mix. And yeah, like you said, like preparing the prickly pear. I remember I was doing that 10 years ago. I was buying them down the street here in the Latin markets in the Mission District, and I was preparing it in here, and we were muddling fresh prickly pear into drinks, which, I mean, it's like squid ink on your hands, right? You can't get that color off. It's messy. The prickly parts of the cactus are get into your skin, and you can't get them out with a tweezer even. It's a horrible fruit to try to process. So to have that flavor in a bottle is super convenient and easy. And the other thing is,
old-fashioned silver duct tape is what we use here in the desert to get those out.
Where were you back then? Where were you when I needed you?
Well, I was waiting here, but I didn't know that was the problem we were facing.
The other thing is, this is such a great substitute for anything with cranberry. I mean, cranberry's got its unique flavor, but cranberry has always been, in all of my career, a staple behind every bar. There's cranberry juice in your store and pour, on the gun. It's never actually really good. It's like one of those fake flavors that everybody got used to and liked. But you put this.
I have to say, I do have to say, because I come from New England, and I am a big Ocean Spray girl, and Ocean Spray is working really hard to make sure that everybody that needs that cranberryness, because the best cranberry is delicious. And we had the director of new products for them on and in innovation. And I have to say, it is not my grandmother's cranberry juice anymore. It is the cranberry juice that makes me really happy. It's delicious.
I think Ocean Spray has always been excellent. I've always liked it, but in the majority of the bars that I've worked in the last 30 years, it wasn't Ocean Spray they were pouring.
Yeah.
Your body.
Especially not in a hole.
Yeah.
All right, so what are we making?
So we're going to make a version of what I've been saying is definitely the drink of the summer this year, the Paloma, and I call it the Palm Paloma. I had actually been making a version of this at Elixir for years, but using for the Palm, I've been using either Palma liqueur or some other pomegranate liqueur, or I was using La Pinta pomegranate tequila. I've done many variations on it, and none of them come close to using this in it. So this is a cocktail that's, again, super simple because we're building it, but I'm also gonna this is what I call the level 2 drink. So our level 1 drink was 2 parts, mixer, spirit, in a glass, boom. This one is got a little bit, it's got another step and a little bit more ingredients. So we're gonna build this, which means we're gonna make it in the glass we're gonna serve it in. I'm gonna fill my glass up with ice. And I'm going to start with my tequila. You could use 1.5 ounces to 2 ounces of tequila based on how much alcohol you want, how much you want to taste. I always say when it comes to tequila in these drinks, I love the taste of tequila. I mean, I love all spirits, but I will always go 2 ounces more because I really want the flavor of that good tequila to come through. And, I'd rather drink fewer drinks with more tequila in them than more drinks with less tequila because I want that flavor balance to be just right. I'm using a great tequila today. It's Fortaleza Blanco. You can use a Blanco or a Reposado. I wouldn't use an añejo because you don't want to get too much of that that barrel vanilla caramel chocolate in there. Although it would work. It just wouldn't be as
That's what I'm doing today. Tell me who's you're pouring.
What I'm pouring, this is Fortaleza.
Fortaleza.
It's hard to see that on my lighting here. That's a little
Michael,
bit better.
can you pull up an image of Fortaleza for us?
This is a great tequila that Enrique Salsa brought to market a number of years ago, and I was very happy. I was one of the first bars that he brought it to in San Francisco, and I've been proudly pouring that for a long time. They make great tequila. One of the many that we serve.
No, because I don't know how to spell it.
Forteleza. Fortaleza. Or is E-A? A-L. Fortaleza. All right, so I've got a glass with tequila in it. I'm gonna put on top of that 2 ounces of Fresh Victor Cactus Pear and Pomegranate. Get a couple of black cubes in there. I'm gonna, before I put my grapefruit soda in there, now, traditional Paloma, you'd use either squirt or Jarritos Toronja or maybe Fresca if you can find it. Those are all a bit sweeter. Because there's some sweetness, obviously, bound sweetness in our stuff, I like using a drier grapefruit soda. So I use this Q. The Q grapefruit, I think, is excellent. It's a bit drier, and it's just perfect. I've also done it at home with these new grapefruit water sodas or waters like Spindrift. I'll make that. We have that at home a lot, so that is really nice. So I'm gonna, actually, before I do that, I'm gonna put a pinch of salt in there. And I like to put it in before I put the soda in because it just helps mix that salt up a little bit better. And then I'm gonna top it off with my soda. I'm gonna take a squeeze of lime, an eighth of a lime wedge, and just squeeze that lime in there. That extra bit of citrus brightness from the lime is really important. And then I'm gonna get my spoon in there and just give it a nice little gentle stir.
Do you float the lime?
I squeezed it and dropped it in.
Yep.
So again, it's not 2 ingredients. We're adding the soda, the lime, the salt. But again, it's super simple and delicious.
Cheers.
Crisp, refreshing. I sit by these by the pool all day long.
I actually add to mine because I made this and I added a leaf of fresh basil. Just slap it and it floats and is aromatic on the top.
Oh, that sounds great. That's really nice. And, you know, also, like, you can play with this, getting away from the grapefruit soda a bit and use if you can find like a nice dry sparkling white wine that's got some citrus notes to it is a great substitute. Ups the booze a little bit, but also a nice way to play with it. And that also makes a nice punch. You want to put it in a big bowl.
So for summertime, punches in pitchers is a way to go that makes it a little less precious and a lot more reminiscent of the punch tradition, but it makes it also very easy to entertain.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Here outside, because we're all sitting 6 feet apart, it's a heck of a lot easier to have a couple of pitchers of it than one big punch bowl of it.
Well, you know what I'm doing here at Elixir? I've done a partnership with Cazadores Tequila, where
I love the Cazadores.
I'm selling the 16-ounce Fresh Victor pomegranate with the Q and a 375 of Cazadores to make a small cocktail kit. And when you buy that, you get a Cazadores pitcher. And so you just basically dump the tequila in the 375 of tequila, 2 of these Fresh Victor, a bunch of ice, top it with soda, and go pour it for everybody.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's
what does
great.
A kit like that run me?
What's that?
What does a kit like that cost me?
I want to say it's about 38.
Nice.
We're selling these for 8. The frontline retail usually for these 16-ounce Fresh Victors is about $7 to $8 depending on the market. So I'm selling it for 8. So that's 16, and then I think the Cazadores is another 16, so it's about 32, mid-30s.
So I want to just finish reinforcing one of the most important points you brought to us today, that when you can find this, and you can find it all over the country because we've got pretty great distribution, this can make you 16 drinks in that ratio. It can make you 8 drinks. It can make you 4 drinks, depending on the ratio. And if you think in terms of ratios, and you think in terms of how many drinks you're going to get out of one of these, it really changes the way we approach entertaining at home. Because we're so accustomed to going to the Costco and buying a jug and not thinking about it until we start making the drinks. We get rewarded for planning ahead when we get this.
And the cocktail kit thing, it's all I've got right now for Elixir is we're selling delivery, and we're doing most of our business in these cocktail kits. And the Fresh Victor pairs so well. A 375 ml bottle of spirit is 12.6 ounces. So that's 6 2-ounce drinks, call it, right? And this is 16 ounces. So you want to go close to 1-to-1, you can pair the two. You want a more diluted or less powerful drink, you can use 2 Fresh Victors. If you want to go a bigger batch, and you take a 750 of tequila and a 64-ounce jug of Fresh Victor, you've got 64 ounces and 25.6 ounces. If you go to a liter, you've got the 33.81 ounces. So you've basically got a 2-to-1 right there, and you're getting 20 to 24 cocktails. So it makes great sense if you're selling cocktail kits and out of your bar, or your restaurant, or even out of your store. You package these together, and not even necessarily for a party, but because the mixers last so long in the fridge. When I started selling these, it was before we came out with the 16-ounce. I started selling these kits with the 64-ounce, and my customers were buying them up, and I'm like, oh, they'll be back in 2 or 3 weeks. They were coming back 5 days later.
That's awesome.
Ordering the same kit again.
Are we going to do the watermelon or no? What are we doing next? Are we all done?
Yeah, let's do it.
You got one
So
more?
the watermelon.
Michael, you got one more? I got to check.
What's that? We got time?
What are we doing, Jennifer? Why are you freaking out on everybody?
System UI server.
What
Low
was
battery.
You know what?
Alert from low battery.
Yeah, I love that. Maybe that's the, let's quickly do this last one before my battery dies.
Okay, so this is the watermelon cocktail. This is another older one from Elixir. I originally made it with Square One cucumber. As cucumber being a melon, this was a drink that I developed for that because it paired well with the cucumber. So that's what I'm pouring today. But I've put this on the menu over the years with basically every other white spirit. This works with any white spirit. And so we're going to start with about 5 or 6 inch-sized cubes of watermelon. Put that into your mixer. And a handful of mint leaves. So maybe, depending on the size of your mint, maybe 1 to 2 sprigs worth of mint leaves. Just throw them right on top of that watermelon. And pull out your modern mixologist muddler. I love Tony's tools, so I got to plug them. And just muddle that up to get those mint oils out and crush that watermelon. If you've got watermelon juice, you can use about 3-4 ounces of watermelon juice and muddle it in with the mint. Get that all crushed up. And then we're going to put on top of that, again, 1.5 ounces to 2 ounces of your spirit.
And what are you gonna? What are you? Yeah.
I'm going to put 1 ounce of Fresh Victor Mexican lime and agave. And I'm going to put that I'm going to put it in a tall glass today. Nice. And give that a good shake. Oh, there's also should be 1/2 ounce of Saint Germain in there, a little elderflower.
Gotcha.
That gives it that really nice floral component.
I've got a really good friend. His name is Dr. Bowie, and he makes a limoncello that is the most hypnotic alternative to the Saint Germain. I prefer his limoncello. I have to share it with you. It's sensational.
Wow.
Look how that covers Jennifer right up when she starts pitching other products, H. See what I'm saying? We can be like, what'd she say? What? There you are. Hello.
So I'm just gonna pour that right over. This is great. Also, like if you want to just throw that whole thing with the ice into the blender, this makes a great blender drink. Or over crushed ice. I mean, it's watermelon, lime, citrus, floral, minty. It's just bright, summery. And I put a nice mint garnish on there. Watermelon.
H, thank you so much. Elixir is the home bar for our guest, H. Joseph.
Well, hold on. I had a problem. I just want to show you, H. When I was cutting my watermelon open, look what happened. A puppy came out. What do we do with that? This is the craziest show I've ever been on. I don't even know what to do with that. Is that cute? That's cute. That's for the kids, Jen.
The line is Fresh Victor. It's sold coast to coast. Let's tell everybody one more time where the website is and where you have recipes.
FreshVictor.com.
They can get direct to consumer through our website at shop.freshvictor.com in 7 Western states right now. Eventually, we're going to have national.
Beautiful. Thank you, H, for joining us again. Go enjoy your day. We love you.
Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for having me. And for all of our industry friends out there, if they want any samples, they can reach me at h@freshvictor.com. I'd be glad to send you some samples.
Is there anybody you don't want to send samples to? Tony Abelganem, Bobby G. Is there anybody that we need to talk about? What about anybody specific that doesn't want to? Dave over Dave. Hold on a minute. Dave at Hot Mixology. Does he get samples? I'm just trying to wonder who's getting samples.
Hey, Michael, I have one more question. H, if I wanted to make a gimlet, like I was making gimlets at the fundraiser we had in Las Vegas for Carrie Simon, and one of the great gimlet drinkers of all time, Bill Murray, comes over. If I want to be Bill Murray gimlet ready, which one of these would make the best gimlet?
Oh, the Mexican lime and agave. I sell them a gimlet kit at Elixir. It's great. And I would do that at the 1-to-1 ratio. You want that gin to really pop.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, H. We love you, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Get rid of him. Who's next? He's
That's
trying
right.
to. He's still drinking. Look at him. He's off the show, but he's still drinking. Look at him. Oh, I thought we caught him drinking. Did you have a nice show today, Jennifer? I mean, I know you had a little.
I love this guy. I really do.
All
And, next time we're going to make drinks with peaches.
Jennifer, stop with the peach. Every day is a peach.
Because they're in season and they smell like perfume and heaven and candy and goodness.
What's going on up here? My goodness. More importantly, what about that? Huh?
The pug coming out of the watermelon is pretty funny.
Was that cute?
That's very cute. I used to rescue pugs.
All rock and rollers love pugs. I don't know what it's about. You must be a rock and roller.
That's me. Anyway, hug your kids and count your blessings.